He was sick. His body was fighting a battle he didn't even fully understand yet, and he still climbed into that race car. He still strapped in. He still went out there and competed because that's who Kyle Busch was. And that's exactly why what Stephen A. Smith said is one of the most disrespectful things ever said about this sport. And hey, real quick, if you are a true NASCAR fan like me, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. NASCAR Nation News is just getting started. We are pushing for our next subscriber milestone, and it's all about real talk from fans who live this sport every week. All right, let's get into it. We lost Kyle Busch last week. Let that sink in for a second. The winningest driver in NASCAR history, the guy who was testing in a Chevrolet simulator on May 20th and became unresponsive that same day, gone the next morning, 41 years old. Bacterial pneumonia that led to sepsis. And the thing that breaks your heart when you learn the details, he had been feeling symptoms for days, maybe weeks, before everything went wrong. He raced at Watkins Glen while sick. He won a Truck Series race at Dover. He ran the All-Star race. He was prepping for the Coca-Cola 600. This man was literally dying and still showing up for work. And I need you to hold on to that thought, because it is everything in the context of what we're about to get into. So, Stephen A. Smith, this man, who gets paid a lot of money to have hot takes, recently went on his show and said, and I quote, "Come on, man, that don't count. You driving a car. You can drive a car at 75 years old." I'm just going to say it straight. That is not a controversial take. That is not provocative. That is not edgy sports commentary designed to spark a debate. That is just wrong. Profoundly, breathtakingly wrong, and Kyle Busch's death proves it in the most painful way imaginable. Here's the thing. It's real easy to sit in a climate-controlled studio with a microphone in front of you and dismiss a group of athletes you clearly know nothing about. Stephen A. does it for entertainment. I get it, but when you reduce what these drivers do to just driving a car, you are not just being ignorant, you are being insulting to every single person who has ever strapped into one of those machines. Do you have any idea what it's like inside that car? The temperature inside a race car can exceed 120 degrees. These drivers lose 10 to 15 pounds of water weight during a race. Their heart rates stay elevated for hours. They are absorbing relentless G-forces while maintaining a level of concentration that literally cannot lapse for even a split second. One mistake doesn't mean striking out. One mistake could mean checking out permanently. And if you want cold, hard data, Kevin Harvick had something to say about that. He wore a monitor once that tracked his calorie burn during races. One race, over 3,200 calories. The company that made the device thought it was broken and sent him a replacement. Next week, 2,400 calories. Harvick said, and I love this, the only athletes that show those kinds of numbers with that sustained heart rate are marathon runners. Marathon runners, not guys just driving a car. Stick with me because this goes so much deeper than Stephen A. Smith. His comments are just the spark. The real conversation here is about what this sport demands of its people and the culture that exists inside these garages and these race cars that the outside world genuinely does not understand. Ryan Preece responded to Smith's comments with one of the most honest things I've heard in a long time. He said, "I'd love for him to go tumbling 13 times, have black eyes, and show up next week doing what you got to do." And that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. Ricky Rudd once drove a race with his eyes swollen completely shut after a crash. He taped them open with duct tape so he could see the track. Richard Petty raced with a broken neck. Dale Earnhardt climbed back into a race car with a broken collarbone and a dislocated sternum. And Kyle Busch won his first Cup championship in 2015 after fracturing his right leg and his left ankle in a terrifying crash at Daytona. He came back from that. He came back from all of it. Because racers don't see racing as something they do, they see it as who they are. I want to tell you something that I think about a lot when we lose someone in this sport. The week after Dale Earnhardt died at Daytona, drivers had to go race at Rockingham. And I remember reading something at the time that has never left me. In racing, there is no sick leave, no bereavement period. You cry, you mourn, and you race. Ken Trader was the first man to reach Earnhardt's car after the crash. He saw Dale there, unresponsive, and he still raced the following week. Dale Earnhardt Jr. raced the week after his father died. A former driver named Kenny Wallace was asked why they do it, why they get back in that car when the grief and the fear must be overwhelming. You know what he said? We're a different breed. We're like F-18 fighter pilots. We know we're going into combat. We know we could die, and we still get in the car. Ernest Hemingway. And look, I know quoting Hemingway in a NASCAR video is not exactly what you expected today, but Hemingway once said there are only 3 real sports: bullfighting, motor racing, and mountaineering. Everything else is just games. Now, I'm not saying he was literally right, but the point he was making, he understood something. Most athletes compete against opponents. NASCAR drivers compete against opponents while simultaneously battling physics, speed, exhaustion, mechanical failure, and the very real possibility of catastrophe every single week. Basketball players don't write a will before tip-off. Golfers don't kiss their families goodbye on the first tee, wondering if they'll make it home that night. NASCAR drivers understand those risks every time they fasten those belts and pull down that window net. And Kyle Busch understood those risks his entire career. He grew up in a sport that took Dale Earnhardt, that took Adam Petty, that took Kenny Irwin. He knew, he always knew, and he raced anyway, even while sick, even while struggling to breathe. Even while his body was losing a battle he didn't even know he was in. I think the greatest proof that NASCAR drivers are athletes isn't found in a heart rate monitor or a calorie tracker or a fitness test. It's found in the simple, undeniable fact that they always get back in the car. Always. And Kyle Busch got back in the car one more time than his body could handle. Not because he had to, because he was a racer. Because being a racer isn't a career, it's an identity. It's bone deep. It's permanent. Even former FSU football coach Jimbo Fisher got it. He was Grand Marshal at Daytona once and said, in NASCAR, they're going to drive whether there's rain, snow, or sleet. These guys are going to show up and race every week. Jimbo Fisher understood what Stephen A. Smith, sitting in his ESPN studio, apparently does not. These men, these athletes, they love the sport to death, literally. Rest easy, Kyle. You practice one more time what it means to be a racer. All right, so here's what I want to know, and I want you to drop this in the comments right now because this is a debate worth having. Do you think Stephen A. Smith should issue a formal on-air apology to NASCAR and to Kyle Busch's family for his comments? Or do you think athletes from other sports genuinely will never understand what it takes to be a NASCAR driver? Tell me below. Let's hear from real fans. And if this video meant something to you, please hit that like button, subscribe to NASCAR Nation News, and share this one. This story deserves to be heard. Kyle Busch's legacy deserves to be defended. We'll see you in the next one.